Hello, hello, my beautiful empresses. Welcome back to Embody Your Empress. My name is Sarah King, the host of this podcast and the founder of Empress Nation. We are here to have beautiful, deep conversations to enrich ourselves and open ourselves up to new perspectives. Our guest today, Alison Reaume, is helping high-achieving women and wellness entrepreneurs building a life that supports your nervous system. Oh my gosh, what we need, right? Rather than trying to hit the override button all the time. I'm so interested to hear how Alison does this and supports women doing this, because for me, I feel like we all need more of this in our lives at all times. Welcome, Alison.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, totally welcome. I would love to hear more about you, who you are as a human, who you are as a soul, and how you came to be on this mission here in this life.
Yeah, I think it's a blend of a lot of things, as most people. It probably all started almost 20 years ago, working with entrepreneurs and CEOs in an executive supportive system kind of role. So I've had the opportunity to witness people building businesses and striving to, make ends meet and do all the things, which is exhausting. Combined with my background in yoga. So I became a yoga teacher 17 years ago, um, and really noticed how one, yoga works a lot on our nervous system to take us out of fight or flight and put us in that more rest, restore aspect. And started to see how there is this gap between how we work and how we live. And a lot of people are always striving for work-life balance, which doesn't actually exist. It's rather something that we have to create for ourselves and what that looks like.
I totally agree. I like to call it the work-life swirl because a balance is not possible. Not that I've been
Totally.
and I like to take the pressure and the expectation off. Like it's a swirl. Like sometimes it's more of one, sometimes it's less of the other, and it uh, mixes around. And it is what we like to swirl into it. Like we add the ingredients into it, and then sometimes we wonder, how do we get into this exhausted mode and the pushing and the very masculine dominated part of ourselves that we're like, we have to keep doing all the things. And I love that you bring it back to resting and restoring who we are, our energy, and the way that we're living our lives. Because for so long, I feel like that has been almost taken away or taken for granted,
Mhm.
especially like society conditioning. Like, I will throw my mum under the bus here. She is one of those women of the generation where if she walks in and sees me sitting on the couch, she's making a comment about how lazy I'm being, yet having no backstory of what I've done for the day. Or, regardless, I'm just taking some time out for myself. Do you find that a lot of women are moving through that process now of unwinding that conditioning that they've had?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not a big fan of social media, but I think there are some benefits to social media for us to learn that we're not alone in those feelings, that we don't, society is really great at conditioning us into thinking that we have to do more in order to be more. Um, but the reality is that we don't. We have to nurture ourselves first and create that space for ourselves. So I think the more we begin to understand that that is okay, the more we start to carve out those places for ourselves.
That's beautiful. And as a woman who, may be starting out like on her entrepreneurial journey, how can she set herself up for success with that structure of
Mm.
having rest and restore as a number one priority?
Yeah, such a great question. I think so. I deal a lot with systems and creating systems that honor who you are as a person in your business. And I think what the challenge is like we often think that we don't need systems, but systems are actually what creates. So most people start a business because they want the freedom. We all use that word. We want freedom in our lives, but a lot of entrepreneurs end up working, they say they work more than they did when they had a full-time job. And I don't believe that that needs to be true. If we have systems in place to honor our own individual capacity, when we start that business is like deciding what those boundaries are, deciding what, what's important to you, what's of value to you, what is like um, deal breakers that, I'm not taking meetings on these days. I have to pick up my kids at this time always, and designing your business around what it is you need to do in order to take care of yourself.
What kind of systems work best for women, do you find?
Sorry, say that again.
What kind of systems in place work best for women? Because sometimes you might say, yeah, pop a system in place, and we might have that resistance to go, does it feel a little bit selfish if I draw that boundary in?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I always like to bring it back of like, how do you feel after you set the boundary, right? Setting boundaries is always challenging. Um, I think they're much more challenging on a personal level than perhaps they are on a business level, just because you don't have the same relationship with your clients that you do with your friends and family. So it can be easier to do that, I think, and especially if you start out with having those boundaries set in place from the beginning. It's much harder to go back and be working with people and then 5 years later be like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that anymore. It can be much more challenging to set that boundary. So it's like, sometimes we don't always know what all our boundaries are until they're crossed, of course, but how do we define, like my end of day is always 3 o'clock. Like, what do you need to do in order to ensure that that happens?
And honoring that. I love that. I think a conversation that we've had around here lately has been, the, the feeling within our body of raising prices. In Australia, currently, we are having a massive cost of living crisis, let's say,
Yeah.
air quotes there, and it is challenging for a lot of people.
Hmm.
The entrepreneurs out there giving their heart and soul into their business have resisted, in like most of the case, putting their prices up of their services or their offerings or their products, for all different reasons. So we're having a lot of conversations about, raising it to be where it needs to be for our value. And I'm just piecing together, putting that structure in place early on of, as life increases, we increase our service value as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, just piecing that together, because a big brand product would automatically do it. Some do it every 6 months regardless, and that's what we expect them to do. And we accept that. So why do we have trouble as female entrepreneurs being able to put our worth out there where it needs to be?
Oh, it all comes back to conditioning, I think. I mean, I think we've been so conditioned to not ask for more or not to take up more space. And I know I struggle with this too. I mean, I don't think it's just necessarily an Australian thing, it's a Canadian thing too, is that we all kind of struggle with this idea of charging your worth and what does that actually mean? There's always this bare minimum, like how much money do you actually have to make in order to cover your expenses? So there's only two ways to do that. You either need to raise your prices or you need to take on more clients. Like that's it. That's the only way to do it.
And there's one way that's much better for our nervous system, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the other thing that I always look at with people too is like the actual delivery of your service. So maybe if you don't want to raise your prices, how can you streamline and systemize the delivery of whatever it is that you're doing so you're spending less time actually delivering?
That's a really beautiful
So there's
point.
like a value for like time and money, that exchange that we often hear about is like, so if it takes you, let's just throw out an example, if it takes you 5 hours to execute something for a client, how could we reduce that amount of time to cut it in half? Because
That's
then
really,
already you can take on more clients but be working the same amount of time.
yeah, without pushing your stress levels, fatigue levels.
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
in. Fantastic.
I mean,
I
because
love.
money already creates stress anyways, right? Like when we're trying to hit those those economic crisis of communities and countries, it's like we're all struggling in our own way.
Mm. How do you bring that back when someone like when your client first arrives, very first time with you, and they might be in that heightened state of my nervous system is fried. I feel like I'm spinning the wheel. I'm not
Mm.
getting anywhere. Where do you start with them to help with the nervous system regulation?
For me, it's really like this deep dive of just letting them say everything that's on their shoulders, on their mind to offload. I think a lot of us have a lot of overwhelm and stress because we bottle things up. So it's like giving them the space to offload all of these things that, you've either forgotten to do, you hate doing, you don't want to do, but you have to do. Money, all of these things is like, then we pinpoint what are the most extreme things that can be fixed right away. Like which ones are going to take more time to develop a system, or you need to hire somebody to do that, or you need to create an SOP, or you need to invest in software or whatever it might be. Those can take a little bit more time. So it's like, what is the low hanging fruit that we can change today? And sometimes I like to even just say, can you carve out half a day that is just for you?
Ooh.
So no client work, no client delivery. It's just no admin work. It's not a catch up day. It's literally half a day for you to be creative, to brainstorm, to reset your nervous system, to think about the growth of your business and where you want to take it. Um, Even to just offload everything in your brain on a piece of paper.
I'm curious, what is the response when you put that offer out there?
Some people are a little reluctant, or there's usually I can't do that. For whatever reason. I have all these things to do or I'm already behind. But this is why, they, if you work corporate, they want you to take a vacation. Like you're supposed to take vacations. You're supposed to have this time to turn off, to reset. And that's when you actually become more creative, is when you step away from the chaos. So I usually say, do with whatever feels the most accessible to you. So, Friday afternoons are a great time because who wants to take meetings on a Friday afternoon? Who wants to do any work on a Friday afternoon? So, you know what? You work all morning, you're off at noon, and the rest of the day is yours.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
I love that a lot, actually. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
scheduled some Fridays in my upcoming months just to have a day for me, actually, without scheduling any recordings or any paperwork or anything involved. Um, for the similar reasons, because I felt like my self care was getting a bit low, like I was cramming it in when I could find the space. And
Yeah.
it was, I sat down and I looked at the calendar. I was like, this needs to be my priority because how can I keep giving in the way that I like to give? With beautiful energy if I keep shoving my own self care down the lane. I'm like, well, that's not practicing what I preach. So, yeah,
Yeah.
my calendar has Saturdays scheduled out. And funny you say Fridays because I chose Fridays because
Yeah.
they're the funnest day of the week. And I'm like, why not take the funnest day of the week? Both of my children are going to be at school next year. So I'm like,
Mhm.
that's perfect. I'm like, I've got a 5 hour window where I don't have any commitment and I can just really nurture myself, nourish myself, and fill myself up again.
Yeah. And I think it's like having no restriction on it. So if you feel really creative and you want to like do a bunch of marketing for your business, or you want to, write a new offer or write a new opt-in or whatever it is, then by all means do that. But the idea is that you're not doing client delivery. You're allowing that creative space to open up in your mind, and your heart at the same time.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, usually when I write, because I write for an online magazine, usually when that article drops into my brain is usually when I'm by myself just having a coffee.
Yeah.
because when I've got it scheduled on my calendar, go and sit down and write the article, I sit there and I get writer's block, and I'm like, it's not working for me. So
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not to even do that anymore. I'm like, okay, as long as I create this free space, the creative side will come flowing through. And I feel like for some people who go, I'm not creative, they put that box around them. I'm not creative. I can't do that. I can't write. I can't paint, whatever. I feel like if we just allowed the space without any projections onto it, we would
Mhm.
be really surprised at what comes through.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, is like if we put things in little boxes and be like, okay, I have to do this now. If we're not in that right energy space, it's really hard to execute on something. So even as an individual, we have points in our day where we have, these really creative moments and we have these really low moments, and everybody fluctuates. Their circadian rhythm is going to be different in every single person. So it's how do you start to understand your own energy patterns and how you work best so that whatever you are planning on doing, you don't carve it out like Monday morning at 9 a.m. when you really don't want to be, you don't even want to work. It's probably not the time to be creative. So it's like, how do you, like some people are more creative in the evening or early in the morning or midday. Like, how do you start to look at your own patterns and go, okay, yeah, this is really serving me right now, or it's not, and adjust accordingly.
It's so beautiful. And I think reflection on that regularly is important too, because we have our seasons in life where we change and
Yeah.
our routine needs to flow to compensate that and reflect it. I know that when children came into my life, my energy levels were completely different. And now they wake me up at 4 a.m. because we have dawn at 4 a.m. here, and
Yeah.
my day starts then. So usually I'm fatiguing a little bit by about 9 a.m., but then I get that sort of boost throughout the afternoon before I wean off for the day. So things I need to do need to be done considerably early in the morning. Otherwise, my brain is fried. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So, and if you were trying to do things, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I mean, it's just, then you're just fighting your own energy, which doesn't work.
it doesn't work. And yet some people are night owls and they smash it out,
Yeah,
late at night. Good on them. I wish I had that actually.
yeah.
I wish
Well,
I
they
had
might
that.
wish they could do the early morning. So,
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
mhm.
we all flow in our different ways.
Yeah, I think it's just like, how do we embrace? I mean, the beauty of being an entrepreneur is that you get to embrace those natural fluctuations of your energy. So you don't have to work 9 to 5. You don't have to work every day. You could work weekends. You could work at 1 o'clock in the morning if you really want to. I mean, obviously, it depends on what your service is or what you do. Uh, but there is some freedom in that. And I think trying to fit ourselves into boxes that don't work for us is the biggest challenge.
Absolutely. Take away the boxes and
Mhm.
know that it's okay to schedule your time when it works for you. And if it means taking a day or a week off, then that's okay. And you don't need to feel guilty about it as long as
Yeah.
you're still creating your business flow. Um, I often hear a lot of mamas, particularly new mamas, go, I don't want to go back into the structured traditional working role. I'm
Mhm.
going to start a business. Then they realize how much work and energy goes into that. And as you said, can often be more than a traditional job, working more
Yeah.
hours. And I hate the word hustle, but the hustle that does go behind it, like can be a lot of energy depending on the services and the work that you get into. What are your thoughts on that? And would you recommend it for a new mama?
Yes, I mean, I think picking something that you absolutely love is key. In every client that I've worked with and myself included, work that you love doesn't feel like work. So the hustle doesn't really necessarily feel like hustle. Um, I'm not a big believer in hustling. I think there's a way to move what's the word I'm looking for? Move from this energetic space of calm and structure that still has hustle, but it has a plan. I think part of the problem with hustling is there's usually like, I need to do this today. And I'm more like, okay, we need to do this, but let's be realistic about the plan of how long it's going to take to execute that. So when you're first starting a business, obviously there's a lot of ducks to get in a row. There, you have to find clients, you have to figure out all these things. There's a lot of moving pieces. So how do you start in the simplest form? How do you find that first client so that you have some money coming in and then start to build out the other things? We don't necessarily have to build all the systems, all the website, all the things all at once. Like you have time.
You have time, that's right. Like picking out like the things that move the needle and making them the priority, right? And then allow
Yeah.
things to come in with time.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
mean, I think we often think that I have to do XYZ before I can do this. So it's like I have to have a website, I have to have a social media presence, I have to do, um, you know, have an opt-in before I can even sell anything. And that is not true at all. You don't
Mm,
have to have any of those things in order to sell something. You just have to know what you're selling.
you have to know what you're selling. I love it. And I love how you bring in that it's not really working if it's doing something that you love.
Hmm.
It just really reiterates like when you are building your business, make it your passion, right?
Hmm.
Bring forward that gift that you are here in this world. Like we're so unique with what we bring to bring that forward and to be sharing that. A lot of people I speak to, they are lost or feeling blocked. What's my passion? What am I here for? What is I need to be doing something more? And we often talk about, well, let's take it back a step and be like, what am I naturally drawn to? Where does my
Hmm.
energy flow? What are my natural gifts my friends always knew about, before, because we take it for
Yeah.
granted. We take for granted the things that we do without thinking about, and bringing that forward to the world in a way that can bring you a beautiful life and sustain you. And then you are pouring your energy into something that gives back to the world at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it kind of comes back to that work-life balance that we were chatting about earlier, is that you have this, it's like I say to my clients, if you need work, like take the work. Like if you need the money, take the work. The challenge is when we're first starting a business, is we often take any work because we need the money, and then we hold on to it because it becomes a safety net. And then we get unclear of what it is we're actually doing, or we lose that passion for why we started it in the first place because we're saying yes to anything because we need the actual cash flow. So it's like, yes, I need the cash, but how do I begin to create the parts that I'm really excited about, right? I have somebody that's paying me to do XYZ. It's not really what I want to do, but it gives me a little bit of a cushion to spend more time finding the clients that I actually want to work with.
That is beautiful. Yes. So, what would be a good way to remind them to sort of check in? Like, often our body gives off signals that what we're doing is not really the right calling. Do you often talk about things like that, how they can check in with themselves?
Yeah, the breath is probably my number one key for anything is, first it takes awareness is to even notice your breath right now. Is like just notice what feels like to take a deep breath in and a long breath out. And then notice how often you can notice that during your day because your breath is going to give you a lot of insight as to how your body and your nervous system are reacting to what is happening. And the other part is the mind. Like if you go to bed at night and you are, stressed about the next day and all these things that need to happen, clearly there is something happening in your nervous system that's kicking you into fight or flight, and something needs to change. And the
Change.
more we ignore that, the more it just continues to build on itself.
Yeah, it does though. And it's the
Hmm.
snowball, right?
Yeah.
Because one night of thinking about it turns into the next day of being consumed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Often change can be daunting for
Hmm.
people. When they have that realization, they're sitting there, they're going, oh my gosh, this is on my mind, something needs to change. What is one thing they can do to help bring them back off that edge of the cliff they might feel like they're standing on?
I am one of the unusual people. I like change. I love change. I think the reason that change is scary is because we don't know what's going to happen. Is like we are letting go of control of what the next steps are. And our mind likes to tell us, the worst case scenario is going to happen, that it's not going to work out. I think the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur and deciding to make a change in your life, or whether it's your life or your business, is that I would say a good 95% of those decisions that you are making are not life or death. Even though your nervous system is telling you it is, it's not. And I like to remind people that the beauty is even when you're making change, you can also change your mind. Like if it doesn't work out, you can change your mind and go back to doing what you were doing before.
Stop it. That feels like a revelation. You can change your mind on change.
Yeah.
Alison, what?
Yeah.
This needs to be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, it's good, right? It's like
That's
I,
what we
I can
forget.
decide to do one thing and then go, nope, that's not working for me. I'm not doing that anymore. Like we are humans, we are adults. We have the opportunity to go in one direction. Sometimes it's not always that cut and dry, but it's like I always like to look at it too. Is like when I first became an entrepreneur, I gave myself 6 months. And I said, I'm going to do everything that I need to do in these 6 months. And it's going to be hard. And then I'm going to reevaluate. So 6 months later, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to give myself a year. And I'm just going to do all the things that I need to do in that year. So every year I do this and it expands. I don't really do it anymore because I feel sustained in where I'm at. But I think anytime you make a change, it's like, well, let's try it. Because what is the worst case scenario? And I like to play that with clients is like, well, what is the worst? What is like, let's talk about what is the actual worst case scenario. People will be like, well, what if it works out? Yeah, what if it does? That's great. Then what? Right? But it becomes a version of ourselves we don't necessarily know. So it feels like, oh, a little bit. But then there's also the devil on the shoulder that's going to tell you everything's going to crash and burn. But but anyone has had that experience in your life already. You've already had crash and burns, and you're still pick up the pieces and move forward. So even if it doesn't work out, you'll be okay
Be okay. Because
eventually.
you have the crash and burns when you're not making any changes anyway, or you're not
Yeah.
expecting it. And that's just part of life. The tower will burn down and you will have to rebuild and change directions and start all over again. So why not have that moment when it's coming from a place of your choice?
Yeah, and growth is scary, right? Like but everyone who has had big change or, made big decisions in their life or tried new things has to face that uncomfortable part of not being in control of the outcome. And so you have a choice to stay where you are, where it feels safe, but there's limited opportunity for growth.
Mm.
And again, it's like you get to choose. What do you want?
What do you want? You're
Mm,
literally describing my early adulthood. Like,
mm,
I grew up in small town New Zealand, and it is a thing. Like, either you move to England and you have the UK experience, or you move to Australia. And at 20, I decided some other people I worked with were going to Australia. So I'm like, hey, I'll come too. So I
mhm.
saved up $1,500. I bought a suitcase and I packed my bag and I jumped on a plane. I'd never been overseas before in my life. I had to get a passport and I moved to a different country. And actually, hearing you say that, the reflection process was, I'll just give it 6 months. I'll give it six
Yeah.
months. If I don't like it, I will go back home. I'll give it another 6 months. Let's see if the homesickness stops. Okay, I'll give it another 6 months. I'll give it
Hmm.
12 months now and see where I am. Like, it was never going to be a forever thing. And it turned
Yeah.
out to be nearly 20 years. And now I'm a citizen here in Australia. And I look back, Alison, and I go, oh my God, what was I thinking? I was a 20-year-old, never left the country. I just got a plane and I moved to a different place with a suitcase and very minimum money, like very
Mm-hmm.
minimum to get
Mm-hmm.
set up with somewhere to live. No job, no nothing, no family support, no, only the people I knew moving here that were the only people here. There was no network. And I just look back and I go, wow, either I was crazy or I was brave or a mix of the both, and it worked out. So now when I find myself in situations with business and I go, oh, is it crazy? Is it going to be the courageous move? It might be both. And I'm like, I've done hard things before. I can do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, but even if we take that scenario and we flip the coin on it and it didn't work out, what would have happened? You would have
It'd
gone
be,
home and
yeah,
it still would have worked out.
it still would have been
It
fine.
just would have been a totally different story. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's this fear that we have that people are going to judge us or think bad about us or think we think we failed. But the reality is like everyone does this. We all take chances. We all make big decisions. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. And again, like you get to decide, is it worth the risk? Like how risk tolerant are you?
Mm. Yes. As a manifesting generator, I am always trying new things. So usually when other people catch up like 12 months later, they're like, hey, how's that thing? And I'm like, oh man, I've moved on to
Mm,
about 20 other projects since then. And
yeah.
I used to judge myself hard on that. I'm like, oh, I keep saying this. People are going to think I'm flighty or
Mhm.
flaky. And then I just realized, well, that's just me following my passions. And because I move quickly through the rotation of things doesn't mean I don't give it my all at the time. It's just they need to move a bit quicker and catch up with
Yeah,
me.
yeah, 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 that's right. They need to try some things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love that we are encouraging of other people, especially other women in this space at the moment, to be like, if you feel called to do something, if you feel it's your passion, go and give it a try. And I love
Hmm.
what you're saying is, what's the worst that could happen? You could
Hmm.
succeed.
Yeah.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah. And if you get halfway through it, you can change your mind and go back. Can always go back.
Can always go back. I
Hmm.
love that. I
But you
love that.
probably don't want to. Even if you made it halfway through, you're probably still not going to want to go back.
Mm.
You did the hard thing. Sometimes the hardest part is the decision.
Mm. It is though, right? If you're finding yourself waking up at 2 a.m. wondering, what could my life look like?
Hmm.
Is that not a calling to be like, maybe I should just try? Maybe I should take
Yeah.
one step.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like the example you utilized of, picking up and moving to another country is I think especially when it feels like something that your friends and your family would never do, it feels a little bit more risky because you almost feel a little bit like a black sheep. Like, why are you doing this? I know for years people would always say to me, when are you getting I traveled and taught yoga for 7 years and people are like, when are you getting a real job? I'm like, this is a real job. Like, do you know what I mean? Our expectations of what things are is, we don't have to be put into this safe container. It can be whatever you want. And I think that's the beauty of being an adult and being a human and in a privileged country that you get to have the access to do whatever you want.
That's right, we do. And if we have that privilege, is it's almost like it would be a waste if we didn't step forward into that
Yeah.
version of ourselves calling us.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you think about people, you always see these clips about people who are passing and they talk about, what are your biggest regrets?
Mm-hmm.
And all the ones I've seen are like, I didn't do the things that I wanted to do.
To do the things we want to do, take the
Hmm.
step, take take the change, take the step forward. There's always an alternative if it's not calling you in a couple of months. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the key to all of this is how do you really sit with yourself and trust your intuition and trust that structure and support that you need to honor all of that inside of you so that you can trust that those decisions are the right decisions for you.
Mm. Intuition is something I love to talk about. It
Hmm.
still seems to baffle people. Where would you say to look into to start if someone is having an issue connecting, an issue
Yeah.
trusting.
Yeah, it's meditation is a great way to access that intuitive part of yourself, and to really start to discern, what's just that mental chatter and what is actually true for me. And for me, it was really learning how to discern between my mind feeding me all this if, should, could, would things, and the part of me that knew that that wasn't true, that knew that it was like, yeah, all of that could happen, but it could also not happen. So, what is this gut part? And I think it's really this gut feeling of, nope, I need to do this. And I think if you land in that intuition, the decision becomes really easy. It's like, nope, this is what I have to do, regardless of what the outcome is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And your truth is your truth. No one else can tell you what your truth is or sway you from your truth. Like when you feel it in your gut, when you feel it in your heart and that intuition all connect,
Hmm.
then there is no one that can tell you that is not your truth. And when that lands, when you get that feeling,
Yeah.
like this is my North Star now. This is my guiding point. When you get to that point, there's no doubting what intuition is. There's no doubting what your messages are coming through. Like when it lands and lights up like a lightning bolt,
Hmm.
hey, that's the message, that's the task, that's the calling. And it's a
Yeah, I
really
mean, I think it's really tangible when we talk about, like, if you talk about partners or you talk about the house that you live in, there's these gut feelings that go, yep, this is the right person. It's not always right, of course. This is where I want to live. Like, there's these parts of us that go, yes, we know, but how do we lean into that in all areas, right? Like, how do we lean into that more often so that we can trust all the time in the decisions that we're making that they're right for us for that moment.
practice, right? The more we
Yeah.
do it, yeah, the more it comes through.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. It's like having a regular meditation practice, like bringing in that intuition practice of tuning in helps strengthen
Yes.
the connection.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Alison, I have some Empress questions for you. I
Wonderful.
would love to know, how do you embody your Empress?
Um, I think it's a lot like we talked about already, is I really honor myself. I I'm a say no when I mean no, say yes when I mean yes. And I live by my intuition as best as I can so that I honor all parts of who I am.
Beautiful. I love that. And what does your Empress energy feel like for you?
Space, spaciousness.
Love that. And what are your parting words of wisdom for inspiring your nation?
I think I'm gonna go back to what I said before and like you have the power to change your mind.
I love that. I love that. I
You can
feel like
change your mind from change.
we that is the reminder everyone needs today, that really lights up a chord. You can
Hmm.
change your mind from change. I love it.
Hmm.
Alison, we're going to pop all the ways to connect with you in the show description. So I'd love all our listeners to reach out and go and consume what you do, because change is exciting. And
Yeah.
what you're bringing in is a way that we can disarm ourselves and really step into change and being who we are without all the extra noise going on around us. And it's so beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.